You're listening to the Life with Old Dogs podcast, and I'm your host, Dawn Mimnaugh, primary caretaker of all of our wonderful senior German Shepherds right here at Woody's Place Senior German Shepherd Sanctuary. And welcome back to the Life with Old Dogs podcast, Season 3. We're still covering the 20 most common health issues in senior German Shepherds. And we are up to number 6, which is a big one, degenerative myelopathy, or DM for short. So degenerative myelopathy is a common Merciless neurological disorder in older German Shepherds that typically surfaces anywhere between 7 and 14 years of age. And it is seen more often in males than females, although females certainly aren't immune from getting this dreaded disease either. Degenerative myelopathy is a slow progressive spinal cord disorder that is similar to ALS in humans. Basically, in the beginning, the older German Shepherd starts to lose his balance and coordination, and then that progresses to muscle weakness or atrophy. Then in time, the older German Shepherd will be unable to support his back end. He won't be able to hold it up, which eventually will lead to paralysis, resulting in paraplegia or quadriplegia. And then eventually there is death due to respiratory failure because the paralysis affects the muscles around the chest cavity in the older German Shepherd. Okay, so that's a broad overview of DM. It is not exclusive to older German Shepherds. It affects other breeds as well, such as boxers and corgis, to name a few. Sadly, there's no cure for degenerative myelopathy, even though I'm trying to think of how long we as a society have known about DM. I believe it's been a little over 4 decades, but like cancer, there is still no cure for degenerative myelopathy. So the only thing that we as caretakers of older German Shepherds can do for our older German Shepherds is provide them with supportive care and physical therapy, which may slow the progression of the disease, but it's certainly not going to stop it. So anyway, in this podcast, Dawn, am going to share experiences that we've had here at Woody's Place Senior German Shepherd Sanctuary with dogs with degenerative myelopathy, so you can gain a solid understanding of what it is and what you can do for your older German Shepherd should he be stricken with degenerative myelopathy. Okay, so what is degenerative myelopathy? Degenerative myelopathy is a progressive neurological disorder that affects the spine in your older German Shepherd. And again, I'm saying older German Shepherd, but it happens to other dogs as well. The cause of DM is currently it's unknown, but it is thought to be caused by genetics, such as a genetic mutation of SOD1, and an autoimmune disorder in which, of course, the older German Shepherd's own immune system starts to attack his central nervous system. And I'm saying he because, like I said, it primarily happens more in males than in females. For instance, we've had 6 cases of degenerative myelopathy here at the sanctuary thus far. We have Prince now, who's number 7. And we haven't had one female yet that's had DM. They've all been males. So I'm saying he, just so you know, that's what that's all about. So when the immune system attacks his central nervous system, the attack leads to the deterioration of the myelin sheath. That is the insulin around the nerve fiber or the axon. And this results in the inability of the brain to send a message to move specific body parts in the affected region. So if you could just picture this, your senior German Shepherd he's trying to move his back end, and the brain is trying to send the message, or the back end's trying to send the message to the brain, whichever way it goes, to move. And of course, the message runs along nerves in the spinal cord. Well, when the insulin is being eroded away by degenerative myelopathy, the message to move the back end basically slips out of the nerve fibers, which are also being eroded away themselves. So the message, it basically just slips out. That's basically what is happening. It slips out and the message gets lost, and therefore the dog can't move his back end like he would normally be able to if he didn't have DM. Just a little side note here. Our blog posts are correlating with our podcast for season 3, the 20 most common health issues in senior German Shepherds. And I really would encourage you to go look at the blog post for this episode, which is titled Degenerative Myelopathy, an all too common merciless disease in senior German Shepherds. I would encourage you to go look at it, and I'll post a link in the show notes for the podcast, because there is imagery in the blog post that obviously isn't here in the podcast. And I would really implore you to go look and check out the imagery. One of the images that's there is an actual image of a nerve. I'm sorry, the spine of a deceased German Shepherd who had degenerative myelopathy. And you can look at the image of a normal spinal cord in a German Shepherd and that of the spinal cord with a German Shepherd who had degenerative myelopathy. So there's a huge difference there, just a huge difference. So it gives you some idea of actually what is happening, the erosion to the oh gosh, I can't talk today. I had half a cup of coffee. I think I need more. But you can see the difference between the erosion. And basically the way it's displayed here in the image is it's color coded. So that helps determine the difference between a healthy spinal cord and that of a spinal cord with degenerative myelopathy. So definitely check it out. How is degenerative myelopathy diagnosed? Well, it's a little tricky. It's a little tricky because degenerative myelopathy can often be confused with other ailments such as herniated disc, an injury, some sort of trauma to the back, stroke, an infection, or even cancer, to name a few. So it's important to have testing done to rule out other possibly treatable conditions, because, folks, there is no definitive test for degenerative myelopathy. Not yet, anyway. So when it comes to testing for degenerative myelopathy, this is what we've done. Blood work to rule out any sort of infection. You can do a DNA sample to see if he is a gene carrier of the SOD1. X-rays, again, to determine there's nothing else that could be causing, some sort of pressure on the dog's spine that could be causing, his back end to look the way that it does. A CAT scan is another tool to use, or an MRI, and neurological testing. One example of neurological testing that we've seen every single time is our trusted veterinarian, Carbondale Veterinary Hospital. They will take the older German Shepherd's back paw. Now, he has to be standing, and if he can't stand, then somebody has to support him while this test is being done. But basically, our veterinarian will flip the back paw backwards so that it's now tucked under. So the top of his paw is on the ground. It's facing the ground. His pads are up in the air and his nails are facing behind him. If he can't flip his paw back over, so it's in the correct position, that's a pretty good indicator that something neurological like degenerative myelopathy is happening. And you can even try that yourself at home. It's called knuckling under. And I have a picture in the blog post of Prince. It's Prince's rear paw. Okay. And in the photo, you can see that his knuckles on his rear paw are starting to wear. The hair is gone and they're black, so they're calloused. In the knuckles only in the center, not the outer knuckles of his paw, and also his nails. His inner nails on his rear paw are ground down. They're worn down. Where the nails on his outer paw, they're fine. So it's only the inner paw that basically sees the trauma in the beginning. Now, as the disease progresses, the whole paw starts to become effective, and it's important to have some sort of protective gear on your dog's paw so that his paw doesn't get scraped up and bloodied and infected and all that stuff. Okay, so there's some of the testing for degenerative myelopathy. Again, just to clarify, there is no definitive test for degenerative myelopathy. It's a process of ruling out other diseases. All right, symptoms of degenerative myelopathy. So I've touched base on a few already. Loss of balance and coordination in the hind limbs, knuckling under, back legs that cross over. So this is interesting. Now, at this point, you can see this kind of, I want to say semi-early on with a dog, a DM dog, where they're walking and they're not walking great. I mean, you can tell at this point something is going on with their back end. A lot of people mistake it for hip dysplasia or, just the fact that the dog is old and don't recognize it really as a neurological disease. But so as the dog's walking, their back legs are kind of getting tripped up. They can be knuckling under, not sure where their placement of their rear legs, and sometimes they end up literally crossing their rear legs over and kind of getting stuck that way where their rear paw will be, kind of stuck on the other leg, and they can't straighten it out themselves. And at that point, they need some sort of intervention to get their legs straightened out. So back legs will start to cross over. Atrophy of the back end. Again, that's when their muscle is wasting away, and you can see that their front end is perfectly normal. They have their muscle mass, muscle tone in their front end, but their back end is starting to atrophy and waste away. Inability to support the back end while standing. So this is as the disease progresses. They may start out standing, but then their back end starts to dip. It just starts to drop and droop, and they can't seem to manage to rectify it, and eventually they just end up sitting down. Inability to get up from a sitting or lying position. They may be able to get up off their bed with their front end, but they can't get their back end up off the bed, or they can momentarily, and then their back end, it may droop, or it may sway to one side or the other and eventually just fall to the ground. And then, of course, as the disease moves on, inability to walk. At that point, they're going to need a wheel cart. I'm backing up for a second here. When they get to the point where they're unable to support their back end while standing or get up from a lying position, that's when we put them in a Blue Dog Help Them Up harness. So we can help them get up. Let's see. Yeah, inability to walk. That's when we will put them in a walking wheels wheel cart, so they can still have the freedom to move around, so long as they have strength in their front end and can pull themselves in a wheel cart. Eventually, they're going to become incontinent. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And just a little side note here, folks, please, if you have a dog with degenerative myelopathy, and you find that they've pooped on their bed or eventually peed on their bed, please do not scold them. They're not even aware that it's happening. They need help. Okay, you wouldn't scold or scream at a person who's up in years and not completely cognitive, and they're incontinent. You just don't do that. They need help, not to be scolded or corrected. So just a little side note there, because I've heard stuff like this before in the past, and I just can't even imagine. To me, it's just common sense, but I just feel like it needs to be said. As the disease starts to paralyze the body toward the upper end, their bark becomes weak. They also may experience nervous and inability or irritability and excessive panting. They're stressed because these dogs, these older German Shepherds, they're completely cognitive. That is part of the absolute cruelty of this disease, is they are 100% cognitive. Unless they have dementia as well, they absolutely know they're not able to use their body, but their mind is just like it was before the disease struck. So that is just one of the facets of this disease that makes it so absolutely cruel. It's like they are trapped in their own body that they can't use. So again, as the paralysis starts to move up the body, there's loss of the front legs. That's when they become a quadriplegic. And then eventually they succumb to respiratory failure, again, because the muscles around the chest cavity become paralyzed. So that's pretty much the progression of the disease in a snapshot. Now, before I move on to treatment for degenerative myelopathy, which, there is no real cure. But before I move on to that, I need to share a story about Woody, who the sanctuary, of course, is named after. Woody came to me in 2007, December 2007. He was 9, almost 10 years old. And he had degenerative myelopathy, which I did not know at the time. I was completely green when I took Woody. Even though we had German Shepherds, growing up, I didn't experience degenerative myelopathy, so I didn't know about degenerative myelopathy. And regrettably, the former rescue that I had been with, they didn't really talk about health issues of German Shepherds per se, and they were more apt to take younger German Shepherds than older German Shepherds. In fact, if I didn't take Woody, nobody was taking Woody. So that was that. The communication wasn't really fantastic, and the internet wasn't so great back then like it is now. I mean, of course it was great then because it was new, relatively new, and exciting, but information about degenerative myelopathy, it just wasn't readily available online back in 2007. So I had no clue, completely green. I knew that his back end wasn't lighting the world on fire, but I also knew he was an older dog. I thought like what a lot of other people think. Oh, he's just an old dog. It's just the way that it is. Sadly, that's the way some people think, and that's the way I thought then. So as time moved on with Woody, of course, I recognized what was happening. His back end was getting worse. I was taking him to a veterinarian back then. I was taking my own other 2 dogs there. I spent a lot of money. Oh, sorry for the interruption, folks. I don't know if you heard that. That was actually my phone ringing. But anyway, so yes, I had taken Woody to the vet, trying to get as much information as I could. Spent a lot of money at the vet. A lot of money at the vet with Woody and my other 2 dogs at the time. I just felt like I wasn't getting the answers that I wanted. And it had gone on long enough. So at the recommendation of someone else, I had taken Woody to Carbondale Veterinary Hospital. And I did. I took him in, and I met the founder of Carbondale Veterinary Hospital, and he was this big old farm vet. He has since retired. He's not there anymore, but he was this big old farm vet, and maybe was a little gruff around the exterior. Didn't even strike me as someone who was a vet. He looked like a farmer. That's what he looked like. So I took Woody to him, and he really didn't say a whole lot. He looked Woody over, and he turned around and he said to me, "This dog is old and he's going to die." He said, "What do you want me to do?" And I remember just being like, I felt shell-shocked. Like I was just so shocked that he had just made this proclamation that my dog was old and he was going to die, and what did he want me to do about it? That I just didn't know what to do with myself. I was offended. I was actually offended, and I thought, oh my God, this guy's just such a jerk. I need to just pay and leave, and I'm not ever coming back here. And I said something to the person who recommended me to go there, like, why did you send me there? And I said something to the effect like he was awful and I don't ever want to go there again. And whatever. And basically what it is I was just a big baby, because what this veterinarian did for me was he gave me a big old pill of truth to swallow. And in hindsight, when I looked back after everything took place with Woody, he could have raked me over the coals just like the other veterinarian that I was going to did. And just kept taking my money because he, recognized the fact that I was desperate and I wanted somebody to tell me everything was going to be okay and that we could make this better. And that just wasn't going to happen. And the other veterinarian, I felt like, just strung me along and milked me dry, basically. But when I got to Carbondale, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Didn't even want to take my money, actually. Told me the truth and sent me on my way, and I just couldn't take it. So, long story short, couple of weeks after that visit to Carbondale, February 2011, February 11th, 2011. Okay, that's where we are at this point. And Woody went into respiratory failure. So I'm sad to say I let it go on that long. Basically, I want to proclaim that I was ignorant, and I was to a certain degree, but I was also just blind to the fact that he was in fact dying, and I just thought there was something more that could be done. So that's a very hard thing for me to say, but back then I knew nothing. I didn't know anything, and I just couldn't get the information that I was really looking for and possibly hoping for. I admit it. I was just blind to the whole thing and didn't want to see the truth right in front of my face. So anyway, I had called my veterinarian that I was still with. It was around noon, a little before noon. and said, I think I needed to bring him in to have him euthanized. And I was met with, well, we're busy. Can you come in on Monday? And I was just shocked. I was like, no, my dog is dying. I need to bring him in. He's dying and I need to have him euthanized now. Probably 3 weeks ago, I should have done it. But, and the receptionist was just really rude. She was just really rude. So I was not collected whatsoever. I had a few choice words for her and I hung up and I called Carbondale. I called Carbondale Veterinary Hospital. And at that time, it's not the case now, but at that time, I think they took lunch breaks. Hello, we're in 2021 and our local post office still closes for lunch, but that is rural life, folks, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But that's enough of that. So I can't say his name, but the doctor answered the phone. And he knew exactly who I was. And he asked me if I could get Woody in my vehicle and bring him over. And I said, I thought I could, and that I would be right over. So here I am, 110 pounds, 5'2" at the time, 5'2", dragging Woody on a blanket out of my house. He's an 80-pound German Shepherd who can't even stand on his own. And I hoisted him up into my pickup truck. Dodge Ram, sat up pretty high. But, when you have a bunch of adrenaline going, you can do these things. So I get him up into my truck, drive up and over the mountain to the doctor's office. And he was pretty much waiting for us out in the parking lot. And I pulled in, and long story short, we ended up having to euthanize him right there in the back seat of my truck in the parking lot. And I was just inconsolable, absolutely inconsolable, and very, very upset with myself that I basically let Woody suffer because of my ignorance and my unwillingness to recognize what was happening any sooner. So really just in a bad, bad place right there in that parking lot. And so here is this veterinarian who I only met once before, and I just thought he was a jerk because, he gave me a big old dose of the truth and didn't put it in a pretty package with a big bow on top. And what does he do? I'm in the back seat hugging Woody, can't let go of him. He's now deceased, and I just can't let go of him. And the vet gets in the back seat with me. we couldn't even fit, but he gets in the back seat with me, and he just put his arm around me. He just put his arm around me, and I know that sounds weird, but out here in the country, it happens. It happens. There's these people are not just your veterinarian; they're also your friend and your neighbor, and they're going to help you. And I love that about out here, but in where we live in northeastern PA. So he sat there and he consoled me for quite a while. And eventually he said to me, and this was his lunch break, folks. And he said to me, what do you want to do with Woody? And I said, well, we're going to bury him. We're going to bury him back at our on our property. And he said, all right. He said, well, do you think you're okay to drive yourself home? And I said, yeah, I think I can manage. And I did. And that was the very beginning of my relationship with Carbondale Veterinary Hospital. Now that veterinarian, like I said, he's no longer there. He's retired, but his family's there, and I just love them. I just love them. They still do the same thing with Woody's place. They are very honest. They're very forthcoming. They don't rack up our bill. They're very knowledgeable and they're very empathetic, and they're friends. And I absolutely love them and couldn't say enough good things about them. So they've been with us the whole time, but enough of that. Carbondale just got a free little blurb there. But the reason I'm telling this story, and I'm kind of going on here, is because number one, I'm not perfect. I'm absolutely not perfect, and I'm learning too. But if I could tell that story and help anyone with two things. Number one, recognize that you should not let your older German Shepherd go on too long, because they will end up suffering, and that you need to give them peace before they get to respiratory failure. Okay. that was something I learned the hard way. And trust me, it's not pretty. And it's a regret that I live with. And number two, the other thing is that I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect and I still make mistakes. I mean, there are times when I'm looking at the Facebook page and I'm posting something or saying something and someone will come back with, well, what about this and this and this and this? It's like, okay, I'm not perfect. I'm learning. I'm trying, but I'm willing to share my mistakes so that hopefully you all can benefit from it in some way, shape, or form. So that story is really hard for me to share. It really is, and it's something I'm not proud of. But since then, again, we've had 6 dogs with degenerative myelopathy. Now we have Prince, number 7, and I've never, ever gone on too long with a dog with degenerative myelopathy because I know it's not beneficial for them. So, all right, no, enough of that. So treatment for degenerative myelopathy. As of right now, December 2021, there is no known cure for degenerative myelopathy, only supportive care and physical therapy to help prolong the quality of their life for as long as possible. So physical therapy we have found beneficial is number 1, hands down, hydrotherapy. Love it, love it, love it. It is not going to stop degenerative myelopathy, but it will help with their muscles to maintain their muscle mass and to help with coordination. It's also a zero impact workout, so it's not going to hurt them in any way, shape, or form. And honestly, they seem to enjoy it. Massage is another beneficial therapy that helps. Laser therapy, you get laser therapy done. Acupuncture, that's another one. And if anything, it helps keep them comfortable. All right. High quality CBD oil. That's another one that we're big on. We use CBD oil for different things, but definitely degenerative myelopathy because, again, the older German Shepherd's anxious because they know they can't use their body the way that they want to. So it helps with anxiety. Just a little side note here, not all CBD oil is created equal. So if you're going online or Amazon or whatever, and here's someone and they're selling CBD oil for $17 a bottle, please don't get it. It's crap. It's like a bag of old Roy dog food. Just don't get it. You need to research high quality CBD oil. One thing that I would recommend is Dr. Hemp Dog. We love Dr. Hemp Dog. They have lots of literature and studies to back up their product. And they were kind enough to give us a discount code for any of you to use if you want to try Dr. Hemp Dog. The other thing is they want to talk with you. They want to talk with you about your dog and the needs that why you're buying the CBD oil. They want to know why you're buying the CBD oil, and they want to talk with you about your dog so that they can match you up with the best product that they have. And not only that, they'll provide you with studies about their product, and they'll follow up with you. They'll call you in a few weeks to find out how your dog is doing on the CBD oil. If it's not working, they'll adjust it, give you a different dosage. So they're absolutely phenomenal. I can't say enough good things about them, and I do trust them. The coupon code is in our blog post, which again, I'll put in the show notes here. So definitely CBD oil. Can't say enough good things about a good high quality CBD oil for a dog with degenerative myelopathy to help with anxiety. All right, so supportive care. Again, I talked about harnesses and wheel carts. If you have a dog, an older German Shepherd with degenerative myelopathy, you are going to need supportive care like a harness and eventually a wheel cart. We have been through the gamut with harnesses over the last decade plus. Now, there's 2 that I really like, but the one that I'm super is my go-to harness is the Blue Dog Help 'em Up harness. I do have the link for their product in the blog post, and I'll put it in the show notes. There's no affiliation here, folks. I'm not getting any kickback. Woody's Place isn't getting any money or anything like that from Blue Dog Help 'em Up Harness. I am just trying to steer you in the right direction because not all harnesses are created equal. And at the end of the day here, you need to have a good, solid harness for two reasons. Number one, you want the best possible support for your senior German Shepherd who can't really help himself at this point. And number two, you need to have a good apparatus to save your own darn back from helping your German Shepherd who is a large dog who can't support himself. And at times it's like lifting dead weight. So you need a good harness, and this is it. Blue Dog Help 'em Up Harness. All right, once they progress, then they need a wheel cart. Again, all wheel carts are not created equal. And there are several good wheel carts out there. And they're expensive. There's no doubt about it. We like the Walking Wheels wheel cart. Eddie's Wheels is also another good wheel cart, but we prefer Walking Wheels wheel cart because they're adjustable and it's a good, solid wheel cart. Again, no affiliation there. And you can get, well, I have the link here in the show notes and the blog post, but handicappets.com is your go-to website for if your dog has mobility issues in any way. That's the go-to website right there, handicappets.com. Don't worry, it's in the blog post and it is in the show notes. All right, so now you have this older German Shepherd who's gotten to the point where he can't use his back end at all, but his front end is still strong. He's not in respiratory failure. He's whipping around in his wheel cart. And listen, they need to be strong in their front end to pull themselves around in the wheel cart. If they don't have strength in their front end, the wheel cart's not going to work. But anyway, he's got the strength in his front end. He's able to whip himself all over the place outside in his wheel cart. He's happy, living life, in the now and to the best he can. But what do you do inside when you're inside the house when he's not in his wheel cart? There's another product called a drag bag. I know that sounds awful. My gosh, it really does. And I have a video actually on the blog post of Gabriel in the drag bag. Now, Gabriel was not able to be in the wheel cart. He really didn't take to it too well at all. Some dogs don't. And I will also say this, when they get to the point where they need a drag bag, unfortunately, the end isn't too far off. I mean, again, that's, a hard pill to swallow, but when you get to that point, the end really isn't too far down the road for them. But the drag bag, which also can be purchased at handicappets.com, it's a big nylon, heavy-duty bag that you literally put the dog inside of. And it only comes up to mid-body, and it attaches to their Help 'em Up harness or a harness. Walking Wheels also has a harness that's a really good harness that you can have on your senior German Shepherd, and it also clips right into the Walking Wheels wheel cart. So that's another good one. And this drag bag also works with the Walking Wheels harness, but also with the Help 'em Up harness. So basically, when they're inside and they're not in the wheel cart, the purpose of this bag the drag bag is to protect their body. It's to protect their body from getting scraped up and bruised and sore and possibly even bloody. And which then, of course, then that's an issue all in and of itself because they can get infections and stuff like that. So it basically protects the dog's body as he's able to drag his back end around. So there you go, drag bag. All right, let's talk about more supportive care here. So as they become fecal incontinent and possibly, urine incontinent, they're going to be laying down. They're going to be laying down they're going to have accidents. So number one, we use big Barker dog beds. They're fantastic for all things old German Shepherd. These beds are the most supportive beds. I will get on one of the beds and lay down with the dog, any dog, and it just feels so darn good. They're super thick. They're super supportive and orthopedic bed, and I love them for the dogs, but they're very, very costly. So now you have this senior German Shepherd and he's fecal incontinent, urinary incontinent, whatever, possibly both. I can't have the dog having accidents all over these very expensive beds. So you can go the route of, wee pads, putting them on your dog's bed so that they're not ruining the bed. But I'm not a big proponent of buying things, using it once and throwing it out. I don't like that at all. So we really like a product called Millimats. Now and it's a reusable mat. You can, look on Amazon for any sort of reusable mat, but I really like Millimats. Again, they're a little bit costly in the beginning, but they're totally organic products. They're absorbent, so they'll draw the moisture away from the senior German Shepherd who's having issues with an incontinence, and they last. They really hold up. I mean, the Millimats I've had them for years. Now, do they look like they're brand new? No, they don't. But do they still work like they're brand new? Yes, they do. So love Millimats. I'll find the link. I don't have that for some reason. I don't think I do. I don't have that in the blog post. I'll have to go check, but I'll put the link for them in case you're interested in Millimats. Oh, you know what? I know. I didn't put it in the blog post because they weren't available for whatever the reason. They're sold out right now, but I'll still post something about Millimats so you can check it out later if you want. But any sort of reusable mat, because you want to make sure that your older German Shepherd isn't laying in his own excrement. Because he doesn't know. He doesn't know that he's having a bowel movement. He doesn't know that he's just peed where he's laying. And it's really, really important not to correct them or scold them if they do. So make sure that your dog is clean, all right, and that he's not laying in something that's really unpleasant. Grooming. He may have trouble grooming himself, so you're going to have to do that. You're really going to have to keep up on grooming him. If you can't, get him in the tub as often as you'd like to. There certainly are dry shampoos and wipes that you could help wipe your dog down and help keep him as clean as possible. Another thing that I do with degenerative myelopathy dogs here at the sanctuary when they start to progress to the point that they're laying a lot is I physically move them, all right, because you don't want them getting bed sores, which they can get, or hot spots, or just yeasty even from laying on the same side all the time. So you really want to help them move around as often as possible. Something I didn't touch base on here in the blog post that I should have, and there is another blog post about it somewhere, is try to keep your older German Shepherd with degenerative myelopathy mentally active. Even just coming up to him and brushing him, talking with him, or playing games with him, or tossing him a ball if he likes to play with balls, or playing with a tug toy with him, something that's keeping him mentally active, because he's going to become depressed. It's unfortunate, but that's what happens, again, because he is cognitive and he knows what's going on and that his body is failing him. So definitely keeping his mind active helps. All right. So, there's no two ways about it. Degenerative myelopathy, it's just an ugly disease, and it's a very, very difficult time for both a senior German Shepherd parent and the senior German Shepherd alike. We feel helpless. We feel helpless as our beloved fur friend becomes paralyzed and loses his independence and then eventually succumbs to this god-awful disease. And they feel awful because they're aware that they're trapped inside their body and can't move like they once did. So the best thing we can do for them is take the necessary steps to keep them safe, to keep them mentally active, to keep them comfortable, and to help them along through this journey of life and to the other side when the time comes. As a caretaker, that's absolutely no easy task. For anyone who has been a caretaker, it's no easy task. It's very important to care for yourself during that time as well, and to be kind to yourself. It's as important to care for yourself as it is the older German Shepherd that you're caring for in this journey of degenerative myelopathy. And if you need help, it's important to reach out for help. Maybe you have a spouse who can help it with the caretaking responsibilities, or a close friend. And on a final note, one thing that I have found that helps me with any of the senior German Shepherds that come to us with degenerative myelopathy is to live in the now. Make no mistake about it, dogs live in the now. They're not thinking about tomorrow. They're not thinking about next year. They're not thinking about the fact that, they may be dead 2 months from now. They're living in the moment. And they're trying to make the most of that moment and the time that they have left. And I would encourage you to do the same thing, to live in the now with your senior German Shepherd who has degenerative myelopathy, and make the most of the time you have together, because one day it's all going to be a memory. And, unfortunately, with the dog with degenerative myelopathy, that's all we're going to get. That's all we're going to get. So, all right. So I hope that this podcast has helped in any way. I want you to know that we have a support group. Woody's Place has a support group, a degenerative myelopathy support group on Facebook. I have included that link in the blog post, and I will include the link in the show notes as well. Please feel free to join. It is free. We do try to provide as much information on there as possible. And also, you are able to post on there if you have any questions or concerns, or you just feel like you're alone and want to reach out to anyone in the group. It's a good group of people. There are others who are sharing their experiences on there as well. The only thing that we ask for is please no advertising. Please no fundraising for other organizations. Unfortunately, we've had that on there. That's just tacky. We're an organization. We're providing you this platform. So please, no fundraising for another organization on that platform. But please go on there and check it out, and know that it is there for you, for your benefit, for whatever it is you need degenerative myelopathy related. All right, folks. That's it. That's all I have for this week. Trying to think of what we have coming up next. We have a degenerative disc disease coming up next. So there's something that could look like degenerative myelopathy. So, all right, folks, that is it. That's all I have for this week. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of this whole journey with me. And remember, if you are not a subscriber to our website, do so, because at the end of season 3, and we're going to be in season 3 for a while here, but at the end of season 3, if you are a subscriber or a member to our website, I am going to be sending a complete ebook to members and subscribers of season 3. All right. So this will be for you, for your records, to print out, to have on hand, to use as a reference for any of the 20 most common health issues in senior German Shepherds. All right. So you want to get that, and it's free. It's going to be free for you, because it's important for me to share any information that I have with the senior German Shepherds we've had here for the last decade plus with you. So hopefully it saves you from making any of the mistakes with your senior German Shepherd that I made with mine early on. All right. Till next time, be well.